Perfect. Hey. Hi, Crystal. So
Hi.
I heard that you're coming to San Diego.
I heard a rumor.
And I would love for you to talk to us about the Talk to the Entities class. So what is the Talk to the Entities class?
Well, in San Diego, we're going to be doing an introduction to the class, which is great. If you're like, if you have that exact question, like, what is this? I can't not look at it, but I don't know if I want to choose the whole thing. So we're going to do an intro. And the Talk to the Entities class is where you start to learn about and get empowered with the tools to work with your spirit awareness. That's it. That's the whole class. So the thing, it is really that simple. I think where a lot of us get hitched on this topic is that we're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean I'm aware of spirits? Like, stop it. Yes, yes, no, yes, stop it. If I start admitting that I'm aware of ghosts, which a lot of us already have that sense of things, then I'm going to be admitting I'm super weird, and you can't put that shit back in the box once you admit it, you know?
Yeah.
But the thing about spirit awareness is that we all have it, and spirits are as much a part of our world as, say, the sun and the grass and bacteria and viruses and all these other both seen and unseen things that we just know are a part of our world. Spirits are just as much a part, but we don't acknowledge them. So Talk to the Entities is the beginning of reclaiming the spirit arts and starting to add that back into our world as not a weird thing, but as a part of our life.
Yeah. And I really love that there's an intro class before the class. I remember when somebody approached and just asked me, hey, are you aware?
You're like,
you have this capacity? And exactly like you're describing, for me, it was like, what? First the resistance, but then it was the awareness of every time that I was.
Yeah,
been in the and in that moment there, for at least for how it was for me, it was a lot of questions of what is this? What can I do with this? A lot of fear around it because of all the points of views I've heard for many different places of what this is, what can happen. So I would have loved to have a space like this at that time, that where I can just go and ask everything.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. Like,
Yes.
were you raised in Mexico? Were you raised in the States? What was your entity education?
So I was born in Tijuana, which is a city in the north of Mexico.
Yeah. And so did you get an entity education, or like when you came to around this material, like what was your basis for, like, what had you been taught about spirits? Anything?
Yes. So first the church, and then when I would go with my friends to a tarot reading. So those were my two, like in the church, or things like, well, if you open a portal, then what will happen? If you get into this world, then this will happen. And
was it more like fear of that world? Like, be careful, because if you do this, then yeah.
It's just, for me, I wanted at that point to be aware of what could happen if I do this and that. I wanted to be informed and educated of what I was getting into. Because there's a lot of not just misinformation and rumors about what this is and what can happen, but also I see a lot of things that I didn't like much. Like when I would go to a tarot reading, some parts of that were very cool, but others were, I also didn't want that. So I was most of all very curious of knowing what it is, to know what is the word, like what is this, what can I do with this, and how can I use it to my advantage in a smart way.
I mean, I actually think you were much more open than maybe even I was. I mean, so my entity education was also religion based, but multiple religions. I grew up in one religion where we were very open and knew about fairies and angels, and it was this United States cult religion that was kind of a blender of New Age and mysticism and Hinduism. And so I grew up in that, but then I got saved when I was late teens and became an evangelical Christian. And the spirit training I got there was you bind the devil and you loose angels. But it was very significant. It was like we spent hours and hours and hours in church, like binding the devil. And I'm like, why? Who cares? Like, once you bind him once, isn't he bound? Like, like there was and that was pretty much it. So then I went to Bible school and I got a degree in theology, and there was so much about it that resonated. And I recognize now, looking back, that one of the things that got me through Bible school and that actually got me through my life was this communion that I had with a being that would show up every time I tapped in, that just supported me and cared about me. And so I had all this education through my life, or miseducation, mixed with these incredible generative nurturing experiences, so that by the time I got to Access Consciousness and we were starting to be introduced to the entity tools, it was primarily incredibly weird, but also spoke to something I knew from way back. And so I would say it took me probably 5 or 6 years of just being exposed to this conversation to kind of shake up the ground a bit to where I was willing to go further with it. Because in Foundation, we start, so what we're bringing to San Diego is we're bringing an intro and also Foundation. And in both of those classes, you get all the tools that you need to really start being more functional. Like, you start to learn about your entity awareness symptoms, because they're different for everybody. They can be moods, they can be physical stuff, they can be so many different things: eye fog, brain fog, fatigue, chronic illness.
Yeah.
You start to learn about that, but you also get equipped with the tools that handle about 80% of spirit activity. You learn how to clear entities and clear demons. And that's amazing. And then for me, that did it for me for about 5 or 6 years, until I started aching for more. And all of a sudden, like, I was a facilitator at the time, and what started to get really interesting to me was facilitating the class. Wow. And that's where you really start to tap into, like, the communion and the communication and the cooperation that's really available, that is this richness that I knew when I was a kid and let go of as I got older, because it wasn't a thing for anybody else. And now I can tap into anytime I want. So it's a very, very deep, broad conversation that we begin with the intro and Foundation.
Yeah. And I love that there's that, like, for also, that was my experience, but and then I found Access and the tools, and it became a whole different story. Also, there were clients that themselves would experience things like this, and they had some education or not much, and also moms where their kids were having also this, and we're very curious on what can I use, what can I do with this, and the immediate energy around that, it is something
scary.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's
weird.
Yeah, totally. And when in reality, it's actually a part of our world. I actually have a bookmark here. It's, talk to the entities, the inclusion of all beings. Because what makes entity stuff scary is the exclusion of them. So we can't include them because, we bought all these weird things about them. They've been, Hollywoodized and religiousized. And so we have all these weird archetypes in our world of something that's scary, but in truth, like, they're energy. And so, I forget where I was going with that, but something about, like, they're not scary. That's one of the things we start to deal with. Yeah. What if it's just a bunch of beings and you have tools and you're the great one, you've got the body and you've got all the power. Like, what gift can you be? Like, it changes the conversation completely.
Exactly. That's a game changer. And for me, going from that to having ease and fun and looking at this, something so beautiful and a gift, is just I'm so grateful for this
Yeah.
tools. So yeah.
Me too, me too.
I'm
And so
excited.
if you guys are watching this and you're like, I can't not look away, it's like, what ability do you have they haven't acknowledged? That if you would just begin to open the door and start to wonder a little bit more about it, would give you access to more of you. There's very few classes and access that are as life-changing as Talk to the Entities. And it's because it handles a part of your ability and a part of the world we don't talk about in a way that starts to include it. And it's the inclusion of that's been missing. So I'm thrilled that we're doing it.
Yay! So if you guys have any question, curiosity, something like this is going up for you, or this just sounds like interesting and fun for you to find out. Yeah. So when is it, Crystal?
In real time, I'm coming February 16th, the evening of February 16th, and then foundation starts the 17th, and that's a 4-day class and includes the conversation of entities. So you can come to just the intro class, you can do both, and then to come to foundation, you can come to bars, you can come to facelift, like there's a bunch of choices, but yeah, the 16th of February.
Okay, yeah, Crystal. So thank you so much. I'll share the links here also for you to go and sign if you're interested, and see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye. Okay, so let me stop recording.